Okay, we have to have a conversation about base Luffy, and I know it's going to get uncomfortable because people are sensitive when it comes to power scaling, and you also have the Luffy defense force that whenever you criticize him, people jump on your back and call you a hater because they can't accept the fact that their favorite character is getting criticism even when it's warranted. And this video kind of embodies why I'm not the biggest fan of power scaling. I think there's just so much that goes into it, including math, science, physics, feats, and there's also the author tax. This is essentially when the author does whatever they want because it's their story, so everything I just mentioned, it kind of goes out the window. I wanted to bring up base Luffy mainly because of Wano, but I'd also say because of Egghead and Wano as well, because we've seen such an exponential growth from him. I'm pretty sure y'all do, but if you don't know what base Luffy is, it's essentially just him fighting in his normal day-to-day mode, or just him not using any gears. I don't know why I even look at Twitter anymore, but I guess you can also argue that this statement isn't exclusive to Twitter because I've seen it everywhere. I'm talking about the Luffy glaze, that Luffy in base beats certain characters. I've seen characters like Zoro, Kuzan, Kid, and Law to name a few, and that's just not true. Base Luffy's not as strong as some people think he is. The main reason I think people give Luffy's base form as much credit as they have is because of his fight with Kaido. Luffy, he used a lot of gears against Kaido, but for a decent amount of the fight, Luffy fought against Kaido in his base form. And there were moments when Luffy and Kaido were going back and forth, and as much as I want to give Luffy credit for his growth to get here, because compared to where he started in the arc, he definitely grew, but I have to say this fight was more about Kaido than it was about Luffy, at least well, when he was in his base. Kaido was matching Luffy's pace and was holding back when fighting him. Kaido's all about fighting and going against the strongest, hence why he allowed himself to get hit as he was testing the supernova. There were moments in the fight when Luffy was in base that Kaido clearly outmatched him and overwhelmed Luffy, knocking him out, showcasing that base Luffy's good, but not good enough. If base Luffy is as strong as the community thinks, then why does Luffy need other gears? Like seriously, if Luffy and base can beat someone like Kuzan, why does he need to use his gears? Luffy's gears exist for a reason. It's because Luffy in base alone isn't strong enough to defeat these top tiers. Heck, even against Kaido, Gear 5th Luffy was struggling. Luffy doesn't just transform just for the fun of it. He transforms because he knows what form is needed to fight a certain opponent. I'll give two examples, and they're both recent. They both happened in Egghead, the first being against Rob Lucci. When Luffy and Lucci squared off, they both fought in base, but then Luffy went into Gear 5th, and this caused Lucci to go in his awakening, and they fought even more with both of them awakening. Y'all know the rest of the story. Luffy overwhelmed him in this form, but Lucci forced Luffy out of base, so if base was enough, why didn't Luffy continue to fight in it? Same with Kizaru in chapter 1091. Luffy kicked him in his base form with advanced conquerors, then the next chapter he switched into Snake Man and was overwhelmed, and then Gear 5th, and y'all know how the fight concluded. Once again, if base Luffy was as strong as people made it out to be, then he wouldn't need to transform. I feel like I've done nothing but poop on base Luffy. That's not to say that base Luffy isn't strong, because it is, and if anyone says otherwise, they're just a liar. But it's more so of a question, how strong is base Luffy? Because for the rest of the series, I hope y'all know Luffy isn't going to get anything else to assist him on his journey. He already has the 3 different types of Haki, and they're advanced. His Devil Fruit is awakened. There's nothing left for him to obtain. The only thing left for Luffy to do is master what he already has. What's currently holding base Luffy back is his stamina, and part of this I think is Oda just doesn't want to spam advanced conquerors and just advanced Haki in general because it's so broken. But I also think if Luffy could constantly use Future Sight, Rio, advanced conquerors, he would, and you could say his gears as well. But if you guys have made it this far into the video, let me know by leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. We post different types of content all the time. The reason why Luffy doesn't go all out at the beginning of his fight is because if the fight prolongs, then Luffy isn't wasn't going to last. This isn't exclusively a Luffy thing, it happens for almost all anime characters: Naruto, Ichigo, Goku, which leads me into an example from Dragon Ball Super. The Tournament of Power was a fighting tournament that lasted 48 minutes. You fought until either the time ran out or you're knocked out of the ring. I don't remember specifically the episode where this was at, but Supreme Kai asks why Goku didn't use blue from the get-go. This is because the tournament is a marathon and not a sprint, and Goku needed to save as much energy as possible to continue the fight, because there was monsters out there like Kefla, Hit, Jiren, that if Goku wasted his stamina early, he wouldn't last, so he had to pace himself and fight with other forms like Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan God, etc. It's not just a Luffy thing. Characters in One Piece don't go all out from the get-go unless they're 100% certain that they'll win. An example of this is Shanks vs. Kid. Because if you don't, you're going to lose the fight. You can't even chalk this up to being an anime thing, because this can be applied IRL as well. UFC, boxing, track, honestly every single sport. Why do you think these athletes don't go all out from the beginning? They'll burn out later during the match, so it's important to pace yourself until the time is right. So that's why Luffy fights in base and his gears the way he does. Base Luffy is going to get stronger than he is now. He'll have better haki control, and he'll get stronger, he'll get faster, etc. There's going to be different opponents towards the end of this series that his Devil Fruit won't be enough on its own. The Gorosei just showcased that they can outlast Luffy in a battle of endurance. We don't know what Shanks' role is, but I can assume if they were to fight, Luffy needs Shanks level or equivalent haki. With Blackbeard, we know that he can negate Devil Fruit power, so Luffy fighting him with haki is going to be crucial. And with the panel including everyone that's going to be in the running for the One Piece, there are other opponents that Luffy will potentially have to fight in haki, and him being able to be stronger in his base form and not just rely on his Devil Fruit is important as well. So how strong is current base Luffy? Honestly, well, I'm not too sure. Luffy himself, if you include his gears, is easily a top tier character, but base Luffy doesn't stand a chance against other top tiers, and I'm sorry, that's just the truth. You can make the argument that base Luffy can't even fight and defeat commanders, specifically like King or Katakuri, because well, it took King of Fellow Zoro to beat King, and Rooftop Zoro and Luffy with his gears were pretty close together strength wise. Heck, even the Seraphim, it caused Luffy to go into Gear 4. Then with Katakuri, it took a Gear 4 Snake Man that was looking into the future to defeat Katakuri. Granted, now this version of Luffy has Ryo and Advanced Conqueror, so it's very well possible. I think a lot of people look at the gap between first commanders and top tiers wrong. I think if you gave a specific number to look at, people will say, oh, that's not that bad, when the gap is actually much bigger. I think the best example I could use is probably the way that we look at temperature. If you just look at what the number says, you're like, oh, it's only a 10-degree difference, that's not that bad, when in actuality 10 degrees feels way different than what's read based on a number, if that makes sense. So I think that's how we tend to look at top tier strength versus first commanders, and I think Luffy fits right in with the first commanders in his base form. I'm not all knowing, and I very well could be wrong, so if you guys disagree with me or have other opinions on this, let me know in the comment section below. But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is on the screen and in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.